George Ella Lyon is the current Kentucky Poet Laureate, and she is going to both share reflections of her time as Poet Laureate as well as do a reading for us today. George Ella is a native of Harlan County and the author of 4 books of poetry, a novel, a memoir, a short story collection, and numerous books. And we're welcoming now our current Kentucky Poet Laureate. I'm sorry, I lost my place, as I'm sure you all can tell, but George Ella will set us straight again. And so we're very pleased now to welcome our Kentucky Poet Laureate, George Ella Lyon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you all for being here. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Arts Council. It's also the 20th anniversary of National Poetry Month. And William Carlos Williams famously wrote, "It's difficult to get the news from poems, but men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there." At this moment of cultural and political crisis, with the islands of rich and poor racing farther apart and the rhetoric of hate lauded as leadership, we need desperately to feel what we have in common, even as we honor our differences. We need the deep experience of our humanity that art invokes, the empathy it calls forth in us, the complexity it helps us recognize. As Lewis Hyde writes in The Gift, works of art are drawn from, and their bestowal nourishes those parts of our being that are not entirely personal, parts that derive from nature, from the group, from history and tradition, and from the spiritual world. The symbolizations, all works of art, paintings, songs, constitute that speech by which the larger self articulates and renews its spirit. The work of art is a copula, a bond by which the several are knit into one. Those parts of our being that extend beyond the individual ego cannot survive unless they are constantly articulated. The Arts Council is crucial in helping the common spirit survive and thrive. Thank you for 50 years. What is going on up there? Lots of kids, but do they have some stampeding wildlife? It sounds like it's amazing. Okay. Oh, maybe so. Really? Oh, well, she says it has to do with where I'm from in some way, and I'm going to talk about where I'm from. I don't know if you can you hear me? Okay. It has been an honor, a trip in more ways than one, and a learning experience to serve as your Poet Laureate this year. I want to thank the Arts Council for their support, the libraries, schools, local councils, and other organizations who have hosted me, my writers group, and my husband Steve for his steadiness, sense of humor, and willingness to travel with me when he could. My sister-in-law pointed out last year that I failed to thank my children. My nervous eyes must have skipped that paragraph. Here's what I left out. I thank my sons, Ben and Joey, for opening my eyes and heart, for challenging me, teaching me, and making me laugh, even as I say, please don't use the salad server as a catapult. The first letters I got as Poet Laureate were from third graders at Glendover in Lexington, Among their questions was, does it come with an outfit? At the time, I thought that was hilarious, but now I see they were wise, given the number of public appearances I've been invited to make. So I recommend that we have a Poet Laureate outfit, or at least a book jacket. Before I talk about my year, I want to report a little on what's happened with the Where I'm From project. I wrote Where I'm From in 1993, jumping off from Joe Carson's poem number 22 in Stories I Ain't Told Nobody Yet. I had so much fun with the subject and form that I started using it as a writing prompt. It took off like wildfire, or wild poem. Because of the resourcefulness of teachers and the rise of the internet, it went across the country and then around the world. So when Lori and Tamara asked if I had something special I'd like to do during my tenure, I suggested that we issue a call for Where I'm From poems from all over the state. Let's do it, they said, and called in Jean St. John to consider how it might work with the schools. I don't think any of us knew what we were getting into. Our hope was to get at least one poem from every county, but Ruthie Maslin, director of the Madison County Public Library, collected over 60 from her patrons alone. Our original deadline for sending in poems was the 7th of March, but we extended it to December 1st for two reasons. First, it takes a while to get the word out, so the momentum was just building by winter. Second, some people thought it was a competition and had chosen one poem to represent their school or county, and we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to participate. It's significant that people thought it was a contest, though the website states in italics that it's not. The competition model is rooted deeply in our psyches. People insist that you have to have it to motivate folks, but we didn't find that to be the case. One person asked me, but what does it mean if you take everybody's poem? It means we want everybody's poem, I told him. It's a democracy. We want a gathering, an abundance. We want to hear from everyone who wants to speak. Last week, I was at a reading celebration in Marion County, and Mrs. Whitlock's class gave me their Where I'm From book. That they're fourth grade, and they wrote their poems and they illustrated them, and I promised them I would bring it and show it to you. They've all been sent in as well. All the poems, 424 at last count, will go up on the Arts Council website and eventually be housed in special collections at UK's library. Someday, someone will open those documents and hear all our voices singing of our time and our place. One of those will be mine because I wrote my reflection as of where I'm from. I'm from the mountain, bluegrass, Pennyrile, and Western Kentucky parkways, from the Dixie Highway, I-64, I-75, 25E, 11,000 miles last year. Calculate miles per poem. From Warsaw to Whitley City, the mountains to the Mississippi. I'm from giving workshops that give back. From, read it again, I missed the last line. Slower, louder, wow. I'm from 68 jobs in 7 cities and in 7 states and 31 cities. I'm from my family. I'm from 4 journals, fat with tickets, leaves, dreams, from rejection and acceptance. I'm from school halls papered with poems, from the Arts Council and the commonwealth of teachers and librarians helping writers find their voice. I'm from amazement in a woman's face when she said, "I don't like writing, but I love this." I'm from coffee urns and Keurigs, from yellow food formerly known as eggs, kept curdled on the breakfast bar. I'm from third grade poets who burst into applause when they discovered how old I am. You've been writing poems for 58 years. I'm from round table revelations and potluck celebrations, from silence. I'm from poems that got out of prison, though the poet did not. I'm from, my mama was bad to write, and all I wanted was a washing machine and a trip to Woodstock. I'm from where you're from, branches and creeks of your Kentucky poems, Big Goose, Little Reedy, Beargrass. I'm from the lines you've written and the welcomes you've given, from the poems we haven't made yet, the truth that waits to be told. A few years ago, I had a book of poems called Back, and they're all persona poems in from different places, different countries, different times. And I sent it to someone who had reviewed books of mine before in Book List, and I sent it to her, and she wrote back and said, "I can't review this. I don't know where these poems come from." And Steve said, my husband said, "So she knows where the rest of them come from?" Which I thought was a really good question. And I don't know where they come from. I mean, we say this poem came from, such and such. But anyway, so this poem is kind of about that. It's called Station Identification, and it's just in little bits with asterisks between them, and part of the poem, I think, is in the breaks between the words. It's called Station Identification. This poem is brought to you by the We Have No Idea How This Happens Federation, a member of the Miracle Group. As the cat looks up, sees where she wants to be, intends herself, and arrives, so the poem, except when her hind foot slips. "You have to be putting me on," says the sweater. "It's not fair," says the clock. "You can hide your face in your hands." Anyway, here's how you get where you want to go. Take and turn, then your destination will be in the middle. Don't forget to stop every 2 months and stretch. Also, it will be more fun if you sing. He said his mother was one of the Danforth Middleburys, so I said mine was a Danbury Middleforth. "You think you're so funny," he said. "Goodbye." "I don't think, therefore I am," says the poem. Anywhere you are, there you go. There were poems in the walls. I heard them scurrying. "Why do you make everything so hard?" says the brick. "This is a free association. Pay it forward." You know Thread. She thinks everything's symbolic. I have 2 more poems. This one began with an article in the Herald in early February, and it was called "Too Poor to Retire, Too Young to Die." It was about people who become migrant workers in order to survive. And the woman profiled was Dolores Westfall. And I thought, what an incredible name, with Dolores meaning sorrow and Westfall for the falling part of her life. So this is an antiphon. "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that..." Hey, could